So our next topic, Leonard kind of referenced this, but it's about my editing PC. And so, for those of you who have followed Rice, we had a concert film in January. Both Leonard was on the early show and Veronica was on the late show in January. We taped it at the CBC Glen Gould studio. And you know what? I was working with different production companies, trying to figure out what to do, and the editing costs were just a bit too high. So I decided, I'm gonna figure this out myself. So I started building a computer. After a while, I started to realize why editing companies charge you so much because it's just an endless stream of hardware that you don't realize you need. So honestly, the computer I'm using is decked out. It's got like an RTX 3090. Video gamers know how hard that is to get. I've got one of the Ryzen chips. Um, you know, one of the 12 core ones. So it's pretty decked out and it's been working. And because we were doing like 6K and 8K footage, it was taking a lot of horsepower to finish editing these movies. And then what happened was Apple just released three devices on their new M1 chip, their first Apple Silicon chip that they've made for their home computers. This is for the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini. Now, I used to be 100% Apple on everything. Like MacBook Pro was my thing, but probably for the past 5 years, it's just been terrible. So I moved over to Windows PCs. Um, and I'm still on Apple for like, iPads and iPhone and all that shit because they're just really good at that. But their laptops were just horrendously awful, like just horrendously awful. So I was like, you know what? This is designed by the team that designed their chips for their iPad. So let's see how it does in their new things. And because because it's the holidays every year with Apple, if you buy something during the holidays, so like mid-November on, you don't have to return it until like mid-January. So you basically get to try it out for 2 months. So every year I always do like my annual Apple rental. And this year I'm like, why not? Let's get the cheapest one. Let's get this little Mac Mini. Everybody's raving about it online. Everybody's saying you can edit all this like 8K raw footage and shit, right? But I was like, no way. There's no way. There's no way. And yes way, there is yes way. This is ridiculous. This little $900 computer is outperforming my $10,000 PC.
Wow.
I'm like, this is some crazy shit. So let me just take you down a story of my PC, right? So 8K footage. And so the thing is, the requirements were really high because we had a 10 camera setup. All of it was like 6K and above footage, and so I need to be able to stream 6K and above at the same time with like color correction, sound effects, all that shit. So you need a lot of horsepower.
Mhm.
Now, the video used this codec called HEVC or H.265. I usually wouldn't go this technical on a normal podcast, but let's be real, our audience are Asian, so most of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's a highly compressed codec, which makes it take up less space, but it makes it very hard on your processor. So, despite the 10,000 state of the art computer shit, I can't render this stuff in real time. I can't edit it in full time with this compressed footage. So, what I had to do was I had to convert it to a more edit friendly format. So, basically, what that does is it gets rid of all the compression. It's called
Mhm.
Apple ProRes. But what it does is it trades file size for processor difficulty. So now my processors can handle it, but the file size is gigantic. And it's so gigantic, and there's so many streams of 8K that then my hard drive is too slow to stream it. So the processor can handle it, but the hard drive can't. So then I had to upgrade my hard drive to be an NVMe like PCI 4 with like eight terabytes. Anybody who builds computer knows that's an expensive piece. An
It's
8 terabyte NVMe is expensive. But I'm like, okay, I have 10 streams of this shit. I know I've lost a lot of our viewers, but I will get to the point. So I take this footage and I plug it into this $900 Apple Mac Mini in DaVinci Resolve. I just export the exact same project files, and wouldn't you know it, it's playing perfectly.
Oh.
It's playing perfectly. I almost screamed. I was like, what is happening in my life?"
And didn't you drive to get all that stuff too?
Yeah,
Oh,
I had to
yeah.
drive to
You go
fucking
to Kingston to
Kingston.
buy this video card, which costs more
Yeah.
than the Mini.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Just as Leonard was saying, this little graphics card, the 3090, I had to beat off scalpers by driving to fucking Kingston. I was on a race against somebody from Montreal to buy this thing because if you buy it online, scalpers will charge you $4,000, and I wasn't willing to pay more than MSRP. MSRP is still $2,000 plus tax. So this thing is literally just the graphics card alone in my computer is 2.5 times the cost of this Mac Mini that is outperforming it with Hollywood level 10 stream 8K footage. I'm like, this,
Oh my god.
I don't even know what to do. I was like, do I dismantle my computer and sell it for parts and just use this little Mac Mini? Because listen, it's not just the cost of the Mac Mini, but the fact that I can edit the footage while it's fully compressed means I don't need fast storage. I can just go buy a 4 terabyte $99 external Black Friday external hard drive that's slow as shit, 5400 RPM, and it's editing off of this shit. I'm like, this is, oh my god, Leonard, I can't.
Wow.
That's so funny. I was
I
telling
can't.
Vong before this whole, I was like, hey, you know what? If you want to stick with the Mac Mini, I will trade you my video card for your super duper 3090. I was like, I'll give you a 2080 Super and some draft picks in exchange.
The fact that you drove to Kingston, like if Amazing Race happens ever again in Canada, you're my partner. You are not my accountant though, because the spending was awful.
Oh man, it's crazy. Like the reason they're so good is because they pack so many transistors onto this thing. So they kind of reached a point where they like, because like I think the transistors are like 5 nanometers, which is basically like 10 atoms or something, and like 10 big-ish atoms, which is insane. And so they keep like the way they make these chips, by the way, is like they shine light onto like the silicon and like burns it like anywhere there's shadows, and then it burns in the rest of it, right? But like the transistors are getting so small that they're running into like the problem of the wavelength of light is only so big. And so now they have to like move like, so the next step is they're like moving to like ultraviolet light or something, like some kind of extreme ultraviolet light that they can get down to 3 nanometers.
Yeah.
So they can have like insane processing power. But the thing is, like, the performance that you're gonna get back from it, I don't know how good it's gonna be. It's gonna be very interesting. We're running into the limits of Moore's law, which I'm not going to explain, but this is just for.
Oh, yeah, I tried to look that up, by the way, before we got on here, and the YouTube video started playing, and I just left the room. I was like, you know what? I don't know if I care enough. All I want to know, I don't even know how to work my TV remote. Okay, so this conversation way over my head.
This is the fun thing about, like, I feel like this is like very generational, because like I think like 40, 50 years ago, like guys would be like, oh, I know how to build a car. All right, I know how this, like, I can build this, I can take an engine apart, put it back together, and do all this shit. And I was just like, put gas in, hit button, yay, go. But like, I can build a computer.
Yeah,
and it's very similar. It's all the, like, you know, like this is the, like the CPU is the engine, and like your motherboard's the chassis, and like, I don't know.
Wait.
I've reached a limit. The keyboard is the steering wheel, I guess. I've kind of reached a limit of how this
works. Did you just suddenly call me old? It's a generational thing. I'm like, hey.
No, I'm just saying, like, with guys, like, now, Maybe it's just like geeky Asian guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I do want to point out David Arnold, a friend of the show and producer David Arnold. A message to Veronica says Vong drives slow and uses Apple Maps to drive home. You should have me for your amazing race partner, Veronica.
You use Apple Maps, you're gonna get so lost. This amazing race. It's so inaccurate.
I know.
um,
I need someone to do all the challenges if we were ever on that.
Yeah, one thing too, and David reminded me, on top of all the extra hard drives and shit I had to buy, I also had to buy a new monitor because before I built this, I was on exclusively Mac hardware. So I had all these Mac monitors. And the thing is, you can't calibrate a Mac monitor without a Mac. So
Mm.
there's no physical controls, and unless you're on Mac OS, you can't calibrate it. And if you're trying to color grade a movie, a concert film, you can't use a non calibrated monitor. So then I had to buy a monitor for this shit too. So this is it just I can't even no, I can't. I'm just trying to pretend that this did not happen. But long story
Uh,
short, if you're looking for a computer, I know it's first generation, and I got bit hard by the last first generation. I bought like the Apple 12-inch MacBook with the butterfly keyboard shit, and it only worked for 6 months, and the logic board failed. It was like the worst piece of shit ever. So I'm usually not for first generation. But I'm telling you, this is revolution. If you need a computer, you go buy one of these cheap ass Apple things. It's
wow.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Um,
Bottom line, we're gonna look good in that film, right?
yeah,
So bottom
yeah, yeah.
That's really all. Yeah, you're gonna calibrate my face, right?
right.
Calibrate it. Good.